Do you have a few tips maybe for our early stage founders? I know you shared quite a few along the way, but maybe that you'd like to share before we jump into the group Q&A.
Yeah, and I do talk to a lot of marketplace founders. I had a great conversation with a woman in Toronto last week, and she had built a really cool marketplace, and I was excited for her, and I was like, you need to get into the US market. Like Canada is just not big enough, like for what you're doing. And it was hairstylists, and it was really cool, and it was a peer-to-peer thing, and she had really momentum. I'm like, get into the US. Um, so the advice can vary across marketplaces. The one thing that I stressed at the beginning is the resilience. I really do believe that these businesses take time. And when I say resilience, if there's not good signal, don't keep throwing money at it. Like move on. But if you have good signal, but it's not great signal, I'll tell you one other story. When I Reverb 2013, 1 year into it, I had a call with Bessemer, big VC firm, and they were really excited because at 1 year we were doing 2 million in GMS with very little marketing. Year two, we did 35 million in GMS. Year three, we did 120 million. They kept like tripling. But after that first year, I shared they were very interested in making an investment. So I spent the time with them and I shared my cohort data with them after 1 year. And they had the audacity to come back to me and say, your cohorts don't look that great after 1 year. It was like a 20% retention, which we thought was actually pretty good, but we didn't know. We didn't know enough about marketplaces, and marketplaces were still very, let's say goods marketplaces relative to eBay were pretty naive there. They passed on the retention, and our retention ended up being some of the best retention in goods marketplace history. And I remind that to people that you're dealing with these, institutional investors that will literally tell you what like they think your data is telling them at that early signal, and it was so off. So that's back to the advice is resilience, resilience, resilience. If you have signal, if our customers are coming back, then you gotta figure out how to beg, borrow, and steal to keep getting to the point where it makes sense to raise money. It rarely makes sense to raise money in those first 2 years. You need to beg, borrow, and steal to get to the point where it makes sense to raise money.